southern border. While I knew it was a serious issue, in my naivety, I remember thinking, well, at least I live in Wisconsin, over 1,000 miles from the southern border. My family will be safe. This is no longer the case. A transnational gang member who is an illegal immigrant was arrested near a local park where my son has football practice. As a mom, that terrifies me. The border issue is now not something that is happening far away, it's something happening right here. Just like every other parent, I want my kids to have as good of a childhood as I had, or better. I remember when I was a kid, I would ride my bike to school or walk alone to a friend's house, and I was never worried about my safety. Now, I'm nervous about going for a walk with my kids without my husband being with us. I don't want my kids growing up in an America where they have to learn how to be hyper-vigilant and extremely aware of their surroundings in order to feel safe. I want my kids to be confident and secure in the world around them. When President Trump left office, our border was a lot more secure. In 2020, illegal immigration southern border crossings were around 400,000. Since then, Kamala Harris, as our border czar, has let over 20 million illegal immigrants into America. Kamala Harris has made every state a border state and every town a border town. We cannot afford to have Kamala Harris be our president. For the sake of our children, we cannot risk having her let in millions more illegal immigrants. We need President Trump back in office so he can fix our border and make America safe again. The effects of illegal immigration crime are being felt by families across our nation. I would like to introduce Patty Morin, who has experienced firsthand the effects of illegal immigration crime.
I'll grab you when we're done.
Hi, thank you for inviting me to come here and speak. Imagine, it's such a beautiful day outside. Imagine you get a phone call and it's like this. Hello, Mrs. Morin? I hate to tell you this. This is Detective so-and-so, but we found your daughter's body. I had just learned a couple hours before that phone call that she had been missing from the day before. They told us later that my daughter was on her daily walk. She was the all-American mom. She had 5 children. She owned a small business. And at the end of her workday, she would walk this very public trail that was in the middle of our town. We've walked it for years, over 25 years. An illegal immigrant that had crossed over 3 times and was sent back, and then the 4th time was a got-away from El Salvador, waited in the woods, grabbed my daughter, snatched her off the trail, dragged her through the woods. He raped her, he strangled her, he stuffed her into a drain pipe. We can't allow this to happen. Kamala Harris has been responsible for the border for the last 4 years. She's done absolutely nothing. I live 1,800 miles away from the border. I'm 1,000 miles away from this town. Illegal immigration is hitting every city in our nation, and not everyone that comes over the border are safe people. If we continue the way that we're going, and Kamala Harris becomes our president for the next 4 years, it's going to get worse, not better. She's done nothing the last 4 years, nothing, and it's caused so much devastation to families. We need to vote for Mr. Trump, and I've been trying very hard not to make this a political statement because I don't want my daughter to be associated with one party or another, but Mr. Trump's the only one that's listened to our family and really cares. And this is not a political issue. This is an American issue. This is our families, our mothers, our children. And I don't know about you, but I don't think that I want to sacrifice another mother or another child for the sake of politics. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Congressman Van Orden. Orden?
you know what it's like to lose a child. And it's terrible. More people by a factor of 4 have died of fentanyl overdose in this country than were killed in the entire Vietnam War. 4 times the amount of Americans that were killed in the Vietnam War have died of fentanyl overdoses in this country since Harris has been our border czar. And it's just got to stop. I'd like to introduce to you someone that's going to give you the perspective of a healthcare provider who's had to deal with these types of issues due to fentanyl poisoning in her professional capacity as a nurse. So with that, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Sarah Filling.
Thank you, Congressman. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. This is fentanyl. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid used to treat patients with severe pain in hospital settings. Fentanyl is a Schedule II controlled substance that is similar to morphine, but 100 times more potent. There is a significant risk that illegal drugs have been intentionally contaminated with fentanyl. Because of its potency and low cost, illegal drug suppliers have been hiding fentanyl and other illicit drugs, increasing the likelihood of a fatal interaction. People all over Wisconsin are unknowingly taking illegal drugs containing fentanyl and overdosing because the illegal drugs look identical to what they're used to taking. According to the CDC, synthetic opioids are the primary driver of overdose deaths in the United States. In 2022, 92% of overdoses were unintentional. Have you ever witnessed somebody dying from an overdose? As a nurse, I have. To observe mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, children, and grandparents be told that their loved one has died from a drug overdose is gut-wrenching and heartbreaking to witness. This is some of the preventable trauma that emergency department nurses face daily. Wisconsin ambulance run reports share that our region, which includes Crawford, Grant, and Vernon County, have received over 500 calls of suspected of opioid overdoses so far this year. This is not including the data in which patients arrive in a private vehicle to emergency departments, accompanied by themselves, family, or friends. Our current administration has a border crisis. Every state is a border state, and deadly illegal drugs are being funneled into our Wisconsin communities. According to the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, fentanyl is primarily manufactured abroad and smuggled into the U.S. In June alone, about 1,400 pounds of fentanyl was seized at the border. In 2019, fentanyl made up around 32% of opioids seized at the border. And just 4 years later, this has more than doubled to 95%. What a drastic change. The Department of Homeland Security reports these figures underrepresent the illegal drugs that are being trafficked into our country. Wisconsin opioid deaths have hit a record high in 2021. The number of fentanyl overdose deaths in Wisconsin grew by 97% from 2019 to 2021. Over the last year, synthetic opioids, primarily fentanyl, were identified in 91% of opioid overdose deaths. This is a preventable crisis. Not only do our Wisconsin people need help, but America also needs help. Next, I would like to introduce someone who has personal experience with this preventable crisis, Ms. Ann Funder. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Fendner, and I stand before you today as a mom and an advocate because of the tragic loss of my firstborn son, Weston. He was everything to me. He was an exceptional student, a friend, a brother, an athlete, and a child of God with a pure gold heart. My son at 15, like so many teenagers, freshman in high school, he sought to fit in. And he made one tragic choice. He tried something that a friend gave to him, but it wasn't what he was told it was. It was counterfeit, fake. It was laced with deadly fentanyl that he didn't know was there. And my son did not experiment with fentanyl. He was deceived to death by a deadly poison that should not be here. This was a poisoning. And today I speak with a heart shattered by the devastating consequences of the Biden-Harris open border policies. Specifically, Kamala Harris. Her inaction since being officially appointed to the border as the border czar by President Biden in March of 2021. Her reckless do-nothing approach has directly resulted in the death of my son and countless of other young Americans, as illicit fentanyl has flooded over our open borders that she was in charge of. If Kamala Harris had prioritized border security and stopped the flow of deadly fentanyl into America, my son and hundreds of thousands of Americans would still be here. 300,000 Americans dead from fentanyl since 2021 on American soil. And since this administration took office, there's been a 94% increase in fentanyl deaths. It's now the #1 killer of young Americans in this country, ages 18 to 45. Teenagers, the number is on the rise, making it very close to being #1, and the fastest growing demographic of fentanyl deaths is 14 and under. And yesterday, 39 days before the election and 3.5 years into her appointment as border czar, she finally visits the border. And I'm here to tell you, Kamala, your weak photo op won't help bring our kids back. Taking action would have. Securing our borders, criminalizing the traffickers, holding terrorist cartels accountable, reinstating President Trump's policies, like remain in Mexico and ending catch and release. Could have. But she's done nothing, and she has failed. And now every town in America is a border town. Here in this beautiful city, Prairie Du Chien, where illegal crime has reached this community, and I'm so sorry. And it lies squarely on Kamala Harris's shoulders. And this election is our last stand. If we let someone like Kamala Harris, with her weak leadership and immigration stance, take the helm, we won't get a second chance. So I urge you to talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to them about the reality of today's America. Remind them of the thriving and safe America we knew just a few years ago under the great leadership of a president who puts Americans first, President Donald J. Trump. We need our president back in office for every American who believes in freedom, in prosperity, and a secure America. So on November 5th, we'll vote back in President Trump, a true leader, and we will make America safe for us and our children again. Thank you. God bless you. God bless President Trump, and God bless America.
Those stories are not easy to hear, not easy to listen to, and they're almost wholly unnecessary. We wouldn't have to hear these stories of the brave men and women in law enforcement, or these moms who've lost their children, or a healthcare worker who gets affected daily, she's got to go home and live with that. Sarah's got to go home and live with that every day. We would not have had to hear these stories if Harris had done her job, period. I want you to think about something. When you leave this venue, this high school, and you go home and you look at those beautiful coulees, or you look at the Mississippi River, you look over these fields of alfalfa and corn and beans, I want you to sit there for a moment, pull your car over, and just look at that hill. Just look at it. Look at that coulee. Look at that field and understand the cavalry is not coming over that hill. It's not. It doesn't matter how long you sit there and look at it. The cavalry is not coming over the hill because the cavalry is in this room. It's you. It is you, and it's the people outside greeting the President of the United States. You are it. You are truly the defenders of the last bastion of freedom, and that is the United States of America, the greatest country that has ever existed in the history of the world. You're it. And I'm it. Let me tell you something about a guy I know. You've seen him on TV before. He's been in the papers once and again. And they tell the most vile things about this man. And they've been lying about him for over a decade. They've tried to kill him twice. He literally took a bullet in the head for us and stood up and said, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" Right. The press will do anything they possibly can to demonize this man. They will tell you that he's hateful, that he's hurtful, that he is a threat to democracy. And that's all lies. Those are lies. Let me tell you something about the President Trump that I know. 1 month ago and a year, we lost our oldest daughter, our sweet Sydney, to cancer. And she left us 3 children and a great husband. And the morning after she passed, I was in what is now her widower's basement, and the phone rang, and it was a number from Florida. And I don't know a lot of people in Florida. I answered it anyway, and it was President Donald J. Trump. He called me to offer his deepest condolences for what you ladies have gone through. There's nothing political about that call. There's nothing boisterous about that call. It was a call from one father to another in the worst circumstances possible. It was a call from one grandfather to another grandfather in the worst circumstances possible. That's the Donald Trump the press doesn't want you to know about. That's the man who will literally take a bullet in the head for you and your children and your grandchildren so that they may live in prosperity, peace, and freedom. That's my president too, ma'am. Yes, it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for coming out here. And I'm truly thankful that you're going to take this message right now that is so sad and dark, and understand that there is hope. And you're going to pass that hope to your friends and your neighbors, and you're going to tell them that there is someone who is coming over the hill the one person that will be leading you, the cavalry, and that is President Donald J. Trump. Yes!
Okay. Are we exiting?
if I hurt you. Let me make it up to you day by day. And if you will, please forgive me and make the world, make it go away. Oh, make the world go away. Yeah, get it off my shoulder. Save the things we used to say. And make the world, make it go away. Yeah, make the world go away. Get it off my shoulder. Say the things you used to say. And make the world go away. Brava, brava, bravissima.
Christine, Christine, where in the world have you been hiding? Really, you were perfect. I only wish I knew your secret. Who is your great tutor? Father once spoke of an angel. I used to dream he'd appear. Now as I sing, I can sense him, and I know he's here. Here in this room, he calls me softly, somewhere inside, hiding. Somehow I know he's always with me, he the unseen genius. Christine, you must have been dreaming. Stories like this can't come true. Christine, you're talking in riddles, and it's not like you. Angel of music, guidance, guardian, great to be your glory. This angel of music, hide no longer, secret and strange angel is with me even now. Your hands are cold around your face, Christine. It's white. It frightens me. Don't be frightened.
There singing in the sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me. Say nighty night and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you'll miss me while I'm alone and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger on, dear, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn,
best. You can be the King Kong banging on your chest.
You could beat the world, you could beat the war. You could talk to God, go banging on his door.
You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock. You can move a mountain, you can break rocks.
You could be a master, don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you go find yourself.
Standing in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
and the world's gonna know your name.
yeah,
'Cause you burn with the brightest flame,
yeah,
and the world's gonna know your name.
yeah.
And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. You can go the distance, you can run the mile. You can walk straight through hell with a smile.
You could be the hero, you could get the gold. Breaking all the records they thought never could be broke.
Yeah, do it for your people, do it for your pride. Are you ever gonna know if you never even try?
Do it for your country, do it for your name.
'Cause there's gonna be a day when you're standing in the Hall of Fame, and the world's gonna know your name. 'Cause you burn with the brightest flame, and the world's gonna know your name. And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. Be a champion, be a champion, be a champion, be a champion. The walls of the Hall of Fame. Be students, be teachers, be politicians, be preachers. Yeah. Be believers, be leaders, be astronauts, be champions, be truth seekers. Be students, be teachers, be politicians, be preachers. Yeah. Be believers, be leaders, be astronauts, be champions. Standing in the Hall of Fame, and the world's gonna know your name. 'Cause you burn with the brightest flame, and the world's gonna know your name. And you'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. You can be the greatest, you can be the best. You can be the King Kong hanging on your chest.
You could be a world, you could beat the war. You could talk to God, go banging on his door.
You can throw your hands up, you can beat the clock. You can move a mountain, you can break rocks.
You could be a master, don't wait for luck. Dedicate yourself and you go find yourself.
Standing in the Hall of Fame.
Strangers in the night, exchanging glances, wandering in the night. What were the chances we'd be sharing love before the night was through? Something in your eyes was so inviting, something in your smile was so exciting, something in my heart told me I must have you. Strangers in the night,
When the twilight is gone and no songbirds are singing, when the twilight is gone, you come into my heart, and here in my heart you will stay while I pray. My prayer is to linger with you at the end of the day, in a dream that's divine. My prayer is a rapture in blue.
Ladies and gentlemen from the great state of Wisconsin and from our hometown here in Prairie Du Chien, I want to thank you so much for coming here. I want to thank you so much for caring. I want to thank you so much for hearing these stories about the tragedy of the crimes being committed against American citizens by criminal illegal aliens. And I'm so glad you came here to see the one man that is going to stop this scourge, this rash of crimes being committed against our citizens. You're going to see the one man who has enough strength and courage of conviction to stand up to everyone, up to and including being shot in the head for us. You're going to hear from a man that cares enough about his country and his family to stand up and risk his life for us on a daily basis. You're going to hear from the greatest president of the United States that has certainly ever been around since my lifetime. And I personally think with the challenges he faces, he is the greatest president that has ever lived. He's the greatest president that has ever served the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, the one man that's going to save this country, President Donald J. Trump.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, from
Well, thank you very much, everybody. This is great. I want to just thank Derek, who is an incredible congressman, so respected in Washington. He's really respected, and I don't know if there's somebody running against him or not. I guess there probably is. Will you make sure he wins, please, okay? Totally respected by everybody. And I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful state. I love this state. I just gave you the biggest, I gave you, before I left, I gave you the biggest shipbuilding contract in the nation. And a lot of other states are angry at me. You know that, Derek. You know where it is, right?
Yes, we do, sir.
That's a big one. And they're doing a beautiful job, too. But I gave you the biggest, and a lot of states aren't so happy with that. They still remember that. But I just want to really, I appreciate it. These are hardworking, beautiful Americans, and it's something special. But outside, we have thousands and thousands of people. Would anybody love to give up their seat? So we were going to have a thing outside someplace in an area where we could have held the people. And I would say, what do you think, 40, 50,000 people at least out there. This went almost all the way to the airport. And it looked like when Lindbergh landed in New York. Do you remember that? He had all the way, the Broadway, the way they used to do it. And this looked like it. But thousands and thousands of people. And they all could have had a lot of fun. Instead, now they're probably leaving and walking back home because we have a nice little room that probably holds 1,500, 2,000, maybe less. And outside you have 40, 50,000 people because the administration couldn't give us the Secret Service necessary because they're guarding the Iranian president who's looking to kill Trump. Can you believe it? Now, we could add 30,000 for it. I mean, you see it. It's unusual that you see something like that. Yeah, we'll call in the National Guard. That's a very good. He's a smart guy. Stand up. I want to see what that guy. Very smart. That's a very good idea. They could have done that, come to think. But, I think it's a disgrace. I think it's a disgrace. But nonetheless, 38 days from now, we are going to win Wisconsin. We're going to defeat Kamala Harris. And we are going to make America great again. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you, fellas. That's great. Great job. They're making your jobs much tougher, right? Your jobs, oh, that's nice people looking. Oh, look at the people behind. Are they relatives of yours, Chief? I don't think so. Oh, that's nice. Wonderful. Well, you got a lot of killers in our country. You saw that yesterday. Last night, after 4 straight years of obliterating our border, I watched this show that she put on. 4 years of the most incompetent border anywhere in the world in history. Kamala Harris traveled to the scene. In fact, she stood near where I put up border wall. That was her backdrop. And in one of the most heinous crimes ever committed by any administration in American history, that's what she did by allowing these millions of people, millions and millions of people, to come through our border and make our civilization very unsafe. It's a civilization, very, very unsafe. It's a heritage. Border Czar Harris went to the border to lie in the most shameless and horrible way possible at the very site where she released so much suffering, misery, and death. There's no greater act of disloyalty than to extinguish the sovereignty of your own nation right through your border. No matter what lies she tells, Kamala Harris can never be forgiven for her erasing our border, and she must never be allowed to become President of the United States. She must never be allowed. And Wisconsin, you can't do it. Can't do it. What she's done is a total disqualifier. What she's done, and so much death has already taken place. And we have some people up here and a friend of mine in particular who suffered greatly because of it. And this has already taken place by the hundreds, but it's going to take place by the tens of thousands, according to explosive data that was just released yesterday by ICE. And they've never released this before. They never talk about deaths and how many. They talk about certain things, but they've never released this kind of information. But it was so bad, never done, but under Kamala Harris, more than 13,099 convicted murderers. So these are people that have gone through the system. They're convicted. They're in jails for life. Some are getting the death sentence. But instead of that, they've crossed our border. They've been taken out by their countries and set free into the United States of America. So they're free to kill again. Oh, they'll kill. These are killers. These are killers that at a level that nobody's ever seen, not even your great law enforcement has ever seen people like this. They got a dose of it, though, recently. They got a dose of it. Their jobs have become a lot tougher. And you remember when they say, no, no, these are migrants, and these migrants, they don't commit crimes like us. No, no. They make our criminals look like babies. These are stone-cold killers. They'll walk into your kitchen. They'll cut your throat. Kamala also let in 25,272 illegals convicted for rape, sex offenses, or sexual assault. 62,231 criminal aliens convicted of violent assault. Everything but death happened to the people they assaulted. In total, she let in 425,431 people convicted of, and these are convicted of the worst crimes. They're criminal aliens, along with an additional 222,000 illegals with pending criminal charges. Many of those charges also are murder, which will add on to your 13,000 murderers that were let into the country. That's over 647,572 migrant criminals who Kamala set loose to rape, pillage, thieve, plunder, and kill the people of the United States of America. And they're not going to change. They're only going to get worse. They're only going to get worse. And our law enforcement system, we have the greatest in the world, but our people are told not to do their jobs. You know, we don't want you to do anything. And they come from tough systems. They're going to love our system. Kamala is mentally impaired. If a Republican did what she did, if a Republican did what she did, that Republican would be impeached and removed from office, and rightfully so, for high crimes and misdemeanors. That would be high crimes and misdemeanors. Think of it. 13,099 murderers convicted of murder, not like convicted of murder. Some of the worst murders you've ever seen. They're all in our country now, every one of them. And I've been saying this for 3 years, and the fake news has been saying, well, you don't know that. Well, now we know it. They've never released a list like this. Not just on these, they've never done it. Over the years, they've never done it. She let in, and that's not even mentioning the rapists, the gang members, the drug dealers, the child predators, and the traffickers in women. In women, mostly women. Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. She was born that way. And if you think about it, only a mentally disabled person could have allowed this to happen to our country. Anybody would know this. And before I knew the numbers, I was saying it for a long time. They're coming in, they're murderers. I said it so much. They're from jails. I say jails and prisons, there's a difference. One's a little stronger than the other, as you understand. They come from mental institutions and insane asylums. How many times have you heard? There's also a difference there. One's a little bit stronger than the others. And they're terrorists. They're terrorists. They're terrorists at the highest level. We have some of the greatest terrorists in the world in our country right now. We have no idea where they are. We have no idea anything about them. They could be in Iowa. They could be in Idaho. They could be here. Because every border is right now running around every state. Every state is a border town. Every state is a border state. They're flying them in by the hundreds of thousands. Can you believe it? Even yesterday when she was talking about how she's going to start getting very tough. Why didn't she do this 4 years ago? And she lies so much. She lies so much. How about she lies? She said Donald Trump ripped the babies out of the crib. I ripped the babies out of a crib. No. And it was actually President Obama that built the cages. Remember when they were saying Donald Trump, and they show a picture of cages, and then I was lucky enough, somebody from Border Patrol said, no, that was in 2014. That was Obama. And then that story went away very rapidly, remember? All of a sudden, the cage story went away when it wasn't me. No, she lies. Well, look, I mean, the simplest lie is that she worked at McDonald's, and she never worked at McDonald's. She worked at McDonald's, and I didn't work there. She didn't work there. But I'm going to go to a McDonald's, I think, over the next 2 weeks. And I'm going to stand over the French fries. She said, I stood over those French fries. She never did. It turned out to be a lie. And when I mention that, they go, oh, he's fallen into a trap. Because you ever see that? Whenever I criticize, they say, all the stupid people, the anchors back there. No, they say, he fell into a trap, her trap. She can't set a mental trap. There is no. But if she says something wrong, like in the debate, she said something wrong, I question it. She said another thing wrong, I made her look bad. She said another thing. They don't want me to ever question. They said, oh, he fell into a trap. He questioned the fact on Charlottesville, which was totally debunked. On all of these stories that were totally debunked, fake stories, she mentions them. But yesterday, this is one I never heard, that I ripped the baby out of the cribs. No, that might have been Obama and other people, but it wasn't us. We had the safest border in the history of our country, and even a sign that I put down, fortunately. I put that sign down, and I love that sign. I love the graph. You know the graph? The beautiful blue, gold, and red graph. It's my favorite piece of paper, perhaps, anywhere in the world. But she's so radical, she even wants to legalize fentanyl right away. Fentanyl will kill you just a little tiny, on the top of a pin, and you're dead. I have so many friends that have lost their children to fentanyl. No, we're going to do something else. We're going to get China that if they send us any fentanyl, I had this deal done with him, but Biden never got it finished. Do you think he lies awake at night thinking about fentanyl and death? No, I had the deal done, and then we had a bad election. We got more votes than anybody that ever ran for office. Think of it, more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country. We lost by just a little bit. Just a little bit. I was told if I got 63 million votes, which is what we got in 2016, we got millions, millions, and millions more votes, more than anybody's ever gotten, more votes than any sitting president has ever gotten, and just by a little bit. No, we got to make sure there's no cheating, and we're working hard on that. We got more lawyers, we got more people watching, and I told them, if we win and when we win, we're going to prosecute people that cheat on this election. And if we can, we'll go back to the last one, too, if we're allowed. But we're going to prosecute people, so at least they know that's going to happen. And I said that because we have to have strong borders. You need two things, strong borders and fair elections. And we have neither, but we're going to do numbers too big to rig, right? Too big to rig. And, there comes a point when they can't cheat. And when you see the lines going back, like even today, lines going back for miles to get in. And this, a lovely building, I don't want to insult anybody, it's a lovely building. But if this building were 20 times larger, it wouldn't be big enough. And why should they do that to all the people that journeyed from all over your great state. When I saw these migrant crime numbers yesterday, first time they had ever been released. They don't release numbers on murders, but they did. Somebody probably liked me. They said, boy, this is unfair. But they released them. I said, you know, this is the real deal. This is something that's very special. There's nothing as serious as this. There's nothing can be as serious as this. Because this gets down to the very fabric of our society, your way of life. I mean, you're going to be looking around over your shoulder all the time. Communities that were safe. This is more important in a way than inflation, which is a disaster in this country. She's destroyed our middle class, our senior citizens. This is more important than anything having to do with the economy. We'll make it better. We'll make the economy. This is something bigger in a sense, because this is the fabric of our country. She's letting in people who are going to walk into your house, break into your door, and they'll do anything they want. They'll do anything they want. These people are animals. She's released people. These people are animals. Now they'll say, oh, that's a terrible thing for him to say. No, no. These people are animals. These are stone-cold killers. They're heartless, and they wake up the next morning and they don't even think about what they did the day before. These are real killers. These are real killers. These are the worst. These are people that have been in jail for many years. These are people that killed many people. They took them out of their jails. You know, in Venezuela, their jails are almost empty. All over the world. You know, this isn't just South America. The Congo, their jails are almost empty. The Congo in Africa, they took them out. They bring them into our country. Many, many countries, their jails are almost empty. Some are empty. Some are much less than that. I would do it the same thing. I would have been better than any of them. I would have had everybody out of there. Some of them still have people. They probably couldn't get buses to get them in, right? You know, you need a lot of buses, but they're bringing them into our country at levels never seen before. And your law enforcement over here had, you know, you just had a problem here in this beautiful place we'll talk about. But what they're doing to us, and I saw that. It's also the fact that they're taking all of our black population's jobs and our Hispanic population's jobs. You haven't seen the real job numbers yet. And I said this also 2 years ago. I said, these people that are coming across the border illegally by the millions are taking the jobs of the black population of America and the Hispanic population of America. Have you seen their job numbers recently? They won't release them, I guarantee, until after the election. But you take a look at the black population job numbers, you take a look at the Hispanic population job numbers, and the unions are going to be next. The unions are going to get hit hard by this. They come in illegally, they take everybody's jobs, and you don't know who you're hiring. Our country is being destroyed. This is the worst president and the worst vice president in history. And you got to get out and vote. Isn't this a wonderful and inspiring speech? I got people sitting in the front row, they're going, oh my God. They thought they'd be out there jumping up and down, make America great again. We're going to do that, don't worry. We haven't gotten to that part yet. Now, I'm just saying, this is a dark speech, but we only heard the numbers yesterday for the first time. You know, I took a lot of abuse because they were saying, what does he mean? How dare he say that? Everyone thinks, oh, it's such beautiful people. Everyone's so wonderful coming in. No, no. Stone cold killers, drug dealers, gang members. Every country in the world is taking their worst people, their criminals that are outside of jail, the gangs that hurt people, the drug dealers, which are causing such problems, that get death penalties in a lot of countries, and they don't have the problem with drugs. But they're taking their worst people, they're bringing them into our country by the tens of thousands. And yesterday, for the first time, I saw the numbers. It was reconfirmed. Some of the honest fake news, look at all the fake news back there. But, oh, some of them turn the cameras off when I'm talking about this. No, they turn the cameras. For whatever reason, they don't want people to hear this, you know. Now, we're We're going to make them honest. If we don't have an honest press, that's your third leg, by the way. You need an honest press, and we have a very dishonest press. Mostly, I mean, I know some, there's a little sliver that's good. But it's, you're right, right side's good. He said right side. It's true, right side. Now you have some good people back there. But it's true. You have some very good people, but you have mostly horror shows. But small towns in America are terrified of migrants coming in, and even when they haven't yet arrived, they're terrified. They're terrified. And a lot of these people don't want to talk about it because they think it's so bad for the town, but they're going to have to talk because people are being killed. I spoke to people from Iowa, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. They're beside themselves, and honestly, I tell you, they're not going to take it much longer. And I guess the easiest way and the best way is on November 5th, you got to vote for Trump because we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I love that young voice. Stand up, young voice. What a beautiful person you are. Wow. Thank you very much. We love young people. One of those little things, right? They're so great. That's the future. That's who we're really fighting for when you get right down. That's who, right? We're really fighting for that voice right there. We're fighting. Because we want them to grow up in insanity. This is insanity, what's happening in our country. Who would do what they're doing? Who would do this? Who would allow 435,000 criminals, hardened criminals, 13,000, think of it, murderers, people that murdered people viciously. Some people murdered many people, and they're now in our country. They're not going to change. They're going to get worse, actually. So we're here today in Prairie Du Chien. Is that a good pronunciation? You could have given me a little easier name than that, but I think we got it right.
Got it. Nailed it.
Prairie Du Chien. What a beautiful name. And we have to keep it beautiful. And you have great law enforcement here, but they're going through a lot. And we're in Wisconsin, and every person here knows exactly what I'm saying. Just this month, right here in this beautiful town, police arrested an illegal alien member of a savage Venezuelan prison gang known as Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua. These are really bad ones. This vile monster was charged with holding a mother and daughter captive against their will and sexually assaulting them again and again and again. This animal crossed Kamala's wide-open border, along with hundreds of thousands of others that are worse than him, He was arrested and released in the sanctuary city of Minneapolis. And by the way, I'm going to end all sanctuary cities immediately upon taking over. Right? Right? Thank you. All of them are ending. And you know, the people of these states with big sanctuary cities, these people are, they want them out. It's only the politicians that want them. Someday we'll explain why. But he assaulted another woman in the sanctuary jurisdiction of Dane County, and he had outstanding warrants for strangulation, all before coming to this small, beautiful, idyllic Wisconsin town. A few months ago in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. There's a lot of action going on in Wisconsin with these things. You know, usually I have like Clark County, an illegal alien released by Kamala Harris was arrested for tying up and blindfolding a 12-year-old girl in the back of a van and viciously sexually assaulting her. A few weeks ago, yet another illegal alien, Kamala Ledin, was charged for sexually assaulting a woman in her home in Wausau, Wisconsin. How do you like that? Wausau. Is that right? Wausau. I like Wausau. No, but think of this. Sexually assaulting, and what he did to her was so horrific that he's now facing up to 100 years in prison. 100 years. These are towns that had no, these are towns and little beautiful areas of our planet that had no problems. Oh, you're going to have a lot of problems. I don't care how good your law enforcement is, you're going to have a lot of problems. They're all over the place. And I'm telling you what I said before. These towns, these little towns and cities, and by the way, the big cities too. New York, look what's happened in New York. And they went after the mayor of New York because he was saying, we can't do this, we can't do that. They just indicted him for long before he was mayor. But look at what they do. These are vicious monsters in our government that are also stupid people. They're vicious, but they're stupid, which is a very dangerous combination. Today I stand before you to make this promise. I will liberate Wisconsin from this mass migrant invasion of murderers, rapists, hoodlums, drug dealers, thugs, and vicious gang members. We are going to liberate our country. I will liberate our nation. Our nation will be free again if we win this election, and it's going to have to go fast because we're not going to be able to handle it. Our nation will be free again, and it'll be free, and I'm the only one that's going to be able to do it. Nobody else even talks about it. Nobody else even, do you ever notice the way these people, they don't want to talk about it because they think it's bad publicity for their town? It's not. It's bad publicity when people are killed all over the place. They don't want to talk about it. We will not allow these people to invade us, conquer us, and take all of our dignity and pride and everything we have stood for from the very beginning of our lives. You have dignity and pride in this town and this area and this state. And they want to take that dignity and pride. They want to invade. They want to take over your homes. They want to take over your buildings. Look at what they're doing in Colorado, Aurora, Colorado. Venezuela gangs are taking over real estate. They're real estate developers like I was, but they do it with a gun. I did it with bank financing. They do it with a gun. They will save your communities, and we will work with your law enforcement. They're going to save your communities. You got the greatest people on earth, and you got to respect them. And when you have good ones, you got to hug them and kiss them and tell them we love you because they're great. They do so. I am endorsed by every law enforcement group, I think, or just about. I better say just about because they'll find some one little person someplace up. I don't really like Trump. Trump lied. No, these are bad people, but virtually everybody. We just had the endorsement of a group of 400,000, the largest law enforcement group, the Fraternal Order. Just got 400,000 people. It was like, they said unanimous. I don't know if it's unanimous, but all the sheriffs all over Florida, all over the country, every sheriff's group, everybody's endorsed us, or if they can't, if they're not allowed to in some cases, they still state their preference. Border Patrol endorsed me, and Border Patrol is like, it's hard. How do you endorse somebody and you're with this other group, but they can't do it. They're unbelievable patriots. They love the country. They hate to stand there and watch these people pour right by them. They want to do their jobs. They're great people. How on earth did a small town in the Midwest and America come to be so famous as some of these towns? Look at what's happening with some of these towns. They're being talked about all over the world, but in a very horrible way, occupied by members of savage prison gangs from Venezuela. I mean, think of that. How does it? You're talking about areas of the Midwest where they're becoming famous because they're being occupied And this is hundreds of little cities and little towns. They're petrified. And their law enforcement is petrified. You have a sheriff and a deputy, or you have a small group, and you'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. I've become an expert on guns quickly. My sons know guns. They couldn't believe what the story they heard, the two stories they heard, actually. But I don't care, because we're doing it for you. We're going to make our I don't care. I just say we got to do it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love that guy right in the front. He looks better than I do, and I think he's probably a little older, right? Look at him. He looks fantastic. 4 years ago, I handed Kamala Harris the most secure border in U.S. history with the lowest illegal immigration on record. In the words of former ICE Director Tom Homan, you know Tom, President Trump was the greatest president in my lifetime by far. This country was never better off than when he was there. He was unprecedented in his success on the border, and it saved so many lives. He got it done. Likewise, the head of the National Border Patrol Council, Art Del Cuello, he's a great, incredible guy. He said of Kamala's visit to the border yesterday, I stood with President Trump when he actually went to the border, to areas that are notorious for drug smuggling and human smuggling and are very dangerous. He stood there. He spoke to the agents for a long period of time. He's been speaking to the boots on the ground for 8 years and a lot. He stood there for over an hour in 110-degree temperatures with heat. It was a hot day, I will say, but the heat was crazy. But with families of victims and illegal aliens, and he spoke to reporters. Vice President Harris went down there. She didn't speak to the agents, and as a former president of the National Border Patrol Council, great guy, Brandon Judge said, President Trump's actions secured the border. Kamala Harris's actions completely opened up the border and made it very unsafe. And I just want you to take a look at this little video. We had a video planned, and we're going to use it even though it was supposed to be for 50,000 people. But maybe they have a little television set outside that they're watching it. But you have to take a look at this, please.
I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border.
Who really is Kamala Harris? She's been telling us her entire career.
I support our sanctuary law.
The illegal immigrant deported multiple times who stands accused of killing Kate Steinle.
An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
Every month. Also have the courage to reject that term illegal alien.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
Are
you aware that there's a
that
perception?
puts ICE in the same category as the KKK? Is that what you're asking me?
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position that you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
Will you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one.
How can she hasn't applied consequences the last 3.5 years? 10 million illegal encounters, 2 million runaways, 600% increase in sex trafficking, more terrorists coming across the border, a record number of people off the terrorist watch list, and over 250,000 Americans dead to fentanyl that comes across the border. Consequences, there ought to be consequences for her failure.
We have a secure border. The border is secure.
Sickening new details about the murder of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. The 22-year-old was beaten to death with a mystery object.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't.
Kamala Harris. Do you trust her to stop the invasion?
She is a disaster. And she's not going to ever do anything for the border. And she didn't even want to get tough now, except her poll numbers were tanking. And by the way, we're leading in the polls. We're doing great. But you got to get out and vote. You know, this can only happen to me. I had to beat Biden. We were 21 points up after the debate. And then I said, oh, I can't believe it. I think they're going to get him out. And then we had to start all over again with this one. She had a little honeymoon period, but people are now finding out she's not a smart person. And she has no idea what the hell she's doing. And she's going to be dealing with the smartest people. President Xi, how do you think President Xi is looking? He's chopping, he's just grabbing his, oh, he's so happy. He's grabbing his people all over the place and watching the same kind of things you just watched, but even better. And we can't have this. Look, we had 4 years of incompetence. We can't have another 4 years of incompetence because we're not going to have a country anymore. She's incompetent and a bad person, but she's incompetent, grossly incompetent. She's a Marxist. You're right. She's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor. Think of it. Defund the police. She started the movement. This is a woman that we cannot allow to have in this. If she gets in, our country is finished. It's finished. Starting on her first day in office, Kamala Harris terminated every Trump policy I used to deliver the strongest and most secure border in the history of our country. We never had Tom Homan said it, the best border. They interview people on the border that live in hell on the border. They say it was never like Trump had it. We had a great thing. And then as soon as she came in, she ended up remain in Mexico. That means you couldn't come into our country. She terminated it. You know what it means. Remain in Mexico. It's what it means. Release and canceled. Little things like the Safe Third Agreement, canceled Title 42, halted the removal of virtually all criminal aliens, ended all of our programs that we instituted to stop child trafficking, which is at an all-time record now. She said last night that I told you, ripped babies out of the crib. I ripped babies out of the crib. She's sick, and she's a liar. And the reason I keep mentioning McDonald's, because it was so basic. She worked at McDonald's, and it was a lie. She's a liar. But Kamala, of all things, the worst thing is this. She lost 325,000 migrant children, and they're either dead, being sold into sex slavery, or just plain missing from their parents. They were stolen. 325,000. What Kamala Harris, can you imagine if that were a Republican? Can you imagine? What Kamala Harris has done to our border is a betrayal of every citizen. It's a betrayal of her oath, and it's a betrayal of the American nation. Not only must she be defeated, but in light of this news, Kamala Harris should immediately resign the vice presidency and go home to California in disgrace. She should resign. Under both border czar Harris and sleepy Joe Biden. Where is he, by the way? What the hell happened to him? Midwestern states from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin are being overwhelmed through 2 programs she created to deluge towns, just like yours. First, she created a program to fly in migrants from Venezuela, Haiti, and Nicaragua, dumping them into cities and towns all throughout America, right? You know that, right? Remember when she was saying, no, we're thinking, they got a little tougher about 3 months ago on the border, a little bit. But they never stopped the flights because they didn't think. But we caught them about 2 months ago, flying in hundreds of thousands of people over the border. They didn't think we'd catch them. Can you believe it? In addition, she's allowing virtually unlimited numbers of migrants to enter and be released at the press of a button through her phone app for illegal immigrants. They have a phone app so that people can come into our country. These are smart immigrants, I guess, because most people don't have any idea what the hell a phone app is. But they do. These are very intelligent immigrants. But you know who they're really meant for? The cartel people. The people that run the cartels. They can use them brilliantly. They're making billions of dollars, among the most successful people in the world. This is why I get shot at so much. I mean, if you think about it. Only a consequential president gets shot at. Okay? Remember that. In less than 4 years, she relocated almost 5% of the entire population of Haiti to the United States. And the rest are coming in rapidly as they can, as fast as they can come out. And 6% of the populations of Honduras and Nicaragua. And remember this, those governments, they send the people that want to send. And those are the people we're getting. These countries are so dangerous that the U.S. State Department has travel advisories warning Americans not to go there. Yet Kamala is resettling all of those people here, anybody that wants to come. So we have travel warnings, don't go here, don't go there, don't go to the various countries, and yet she's taken in the worst of those people, the killers, the jailbirds, all of the worst of the people, she's taken them in. And then I have to sit there and listen to her bullshit last night. And who puts it on? Fox News. And they shouldn't be allowed to put it on. It's all lies. It's all lies. Everything she said is a lie. But it all stops the moment I raise my hand and take the oath of office as your 47th President of the United States. It all stops. Thank you very much. Not far from where we are today, in a small, very beautiful town of 15,000, Whitewater. Do you know Whitewater? Right up the road a little bit. Kamala has flooded the town with an estimated 2,000 migrants from Venezuela and Nicaragua. Very tough ones, some very tough people in that group. I know because I get the info. Housing costs have now soared by 25% because the government's buying houses for them. Diseases are spreading like wildfire, all sorts of disease. The police say they cannot handle the surge in crime. The schools can't teach, and they're taking over the schools. And the town itself has plunged heavily into debt. The town's in big trouble. In Springfield, Ohio, 32,000 migrants from Haiti and other countries descended upon this idyllic town of 50,000 people. How would you like to have 50,000 people and now all of a sudden, a short time later, you have 32,000 more? They don't speak the language. They don't have the culture, whole different culture. Everything's different. But yet 50,000 people with no crime, no problems, only happiness, love. Not anymore. The mayor is a very nice man. I don't know him, but he's a very nice man. And he doesn't want to really talk about it, but he's got to talk about it. He wants to be politically correct, so rather than saying what he should be saying, which is, you're all leaving, you're not coming in, we're not going to take you, we're not going to allow this to happen to our town. Instead of that, he was on television the other day. He said, no, we're trying very hard to get along with everyone. We're looking for interpreters because nobody speaks English. And I believe he actually intends on keeping the people in the town, The town is ruined. It's destroyed. I mean, I am politically correct, but not when it's this important. Your towns, your cities, your country is being destroyed. This is bigger than inflation, which is killing you, all caused by Biden and Harris with their stupid energy policy and all of their spending on the Green New Scam. Billions and trillions on the Green New Scam, on garbage that doesn't do it, that actually brings our country back. They don't think about nuclear missiles from different countries. And by the way, they can't handle them anyway. You'll end up in World War III. But they think about global warming, which is now called climate change, because global warming doesn't work anymore, because it's actually cooling. It worked for a few seasons, but now it's not working. So climate change, a much better term, because that covers everything. Warming, cooling, rain, sun, it covers everything. Trillions and trillions of dollars they waste. You know, they want to go to 93 trillion. That's more money than every country in the planet has, and destroyed. Germany went that way for 1 year, and now they're building coal plants all over the place. You know why? Because they were getting destroyed. That's why Angela Merkel is no longer there. Already everybody is talking about leaving the different towns that we're talking about. The majority of the school cannot speak English. In Ohio, Springfield, they can't speak English. They're taking over the schools. There's nobody that can speak English. And the mayor's looking for interpreters. Isn't that wonderful? How can this happen? How can we allow it to happen? If Kamala is reelected, your town and every town, just like it, all across Wisconsin and all across our country, the heartland, the coast, it doesn't matter, will be transformed into a third world hellhole. That's what's going to happen, 100%. Remember, there's a hat that's made that sells like crazy. Oh, there's a fly. Oh, I wonder where the fly came from. See, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have had a fly up here. You're changing rapidly, but we can't take it any longer. We can't take it any longer. It takes centuries to build up the unique character of the United States of America. Centuries and centuries, goes on forever. Good and bad, it all comes out, and we ended up with a great country. But in 3.5 years, they've really destroyed our country. They've really destroyed it. And we can fix it, but you know what? In 4 years, it's going to be too late. Just like we've seen in London and Paris and Minneapolis and Aurora and Colorado and Springfield, Ohio. But I'll not let it happen here in Wisconsin. I'm not going to let it happen. You're not going to let it happen either. And I will not let it happen to Prairie Du Chien. Not going to happen. So I just want to say we're pleased to be joined by so many great people, but one of them, as I said before, is Congressman Derek Van Orden, who lives just a short distance away, where a heinous sex assault that I mentioned before took place. It was terrible. And Derek, I want to thank you very much for being here. You're doing a great job. But they had a hell of a time, right?
Yes, sir.
And this was from an illegal that came in through Kamala. And that won't be the last one. It'll only get worse. It's going to get so bad that it won't be sustainable. We have to get these people out. We got to get them out of here, okay? Got to get them out of here fast. Now, the fake news would say, oh, he's such a mean person. I'm not mean. I'm a good person. I want to take care. We got to take care of people. We've built this over 250 years. We got to take care of our country. Our country is being destroyed by these people. And you don't even know why. Are they stupid? Are they evil? Do they want us to be destroyed? It's so obvious that it can't work. It can't work. I mean, go and take a look at Springfield. Go and take a look. And the governor's a Republican. He's a nice man. I helped him very much. Without me, he wouldn't have been elected. But he's taken an attitude like, oh, isn't it wonderful? Look, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get these people back where they came from. You have no choice. You're going to lose your culture. You're going to lose your country. You're going to have crime, the likes of which nobody has ever seen before. Now, I'm speaking from common sense. You see, the Republican Party has really become the party of common sense. We need common sense now. I mean, we're not going to have men playing in women's sports. Things, we want to have a border. We want to have a border. We want to have good education. We want to have low taxes. We want to have a strong military. I rebuilt our military. Then they give away a big chunk of it to Afghanistan. In the single most embarrassing day in the history of our country. The same idiots are dealing with us now on nuclear weapons in Russia and the problems in the Middle East. We have this whole world is exploding. And you know, one of the toughest, smartest people said very nicely, Viktor Orban, he's the head of a place called Hungary. He said, if you bring Trump back, everything's going to be good. Otherwise, this whole world is going to end up in a big, fat world war. You're going to end up having it. Also with us, Crawford County Sheriff Dale McCulloch. Dale, thank you. Wherever Dale is. Thank you, Dale. Thank you. Good job. Prairie Du Chien Police Chief Kyle Tiener. Kyle, thank you very much. Thank you, Kyle. Good job. And Wisconsin GOP Chair Brian Chimming. Thank you very much. Where's Brian? Oh, Brian, stand up, Brian. Are we going to win, Brian? Okay, good. Brian's doing a great job. Doing a great job. Thanks, Brian. Good job. What Kamala did not talk about in her lies last night, just lied. Everything was a lie. And I always say, why didn't she do it? You know, she's been here almost 4 years. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Reading off a teleprompter. Isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need a teleprompter? But I keep asking, I said it in the debate, I said, so why don't you do it? Why don't you just do it? We're going to do this, She's been there for almost 4 years. They didn't do anything except destroy our country. So why don't you do it? Then she says about a bill. It was such a bad bill, this bill that she talks about. You know, it's a fake bill. It was put in by the Democrats with a couple of Republicans that got duped and put before, nobody wanted to vote. She said, I'm the one that talked them out. I wish I had that ability, that I was the one that said, don't vote for it. But I do have a certain say, but I would have never voted for that bill. It was so bad. It would have allowed everybody to become a citizen. It would have allowed at least 2 million people to come into our country, and very rough ones. It was a terrible bill, but they use that as an excuse. The fact is, all she has to do is go back to the White House, wake up Sleepy Joe, it'll be 4 o'clock, so he's gone to bed, and say, Joe, get your ass down here. I'm going to ask you to do me a favor because I'm losing in the election. Sign this piece of paper. What is the piece of paper? It says to the Border Patrol, close the border. 3 words. Like I did. And we want people to come in, but we want them to come in legally. Close the border. Joe, please sign it. Please sign it, Joe. I need help, Joe. I need help. They're killing me on the border. I'm losing on the border. You know, I won in 2016 on the border. It was one of the big things. I mean, I won on a lot of reasons, but I won on the border. I won because I stopped people from coming on and killing our country with trade, or the various countries, mostly known as our friends. Our friends can be the worst on trade, okay? They kill us more than our enemies, frankly. They sort of come underneath, and all of a sudden you realize, gee, we got taken over. But I did great on that. But I probably won on the border, and I fixed the border. And then in 2020, I couldn't even talk about it. And yet I got millions of more votes in 2020, but I still couldn't talk about it. And my people were saying to me, sir, they don't want to hear about the border. because you fixed it. I said, well, I want to talk about it. They don't want to hear it. It's true. Nobody wanted to hear it. Today's border is 20 times worse than it was in 2016. 2016 was like a great day for this border. 2016, I fixed it. I built hundreds of miles of wall. I had another 200 miles, and that's much more than I promised to do, 200 miles ready to go. And when they took over, because of a rigged election, when they took over, they didn't want anything to do with putting those panels up. You couldn't put them up. They were laying right there, right next to it. I don't know if you heard this story. So, you know, they had sections where they even said we have to build a wall. And the panels that we put up were exactly what Border Patrol and ICE wanted. Everything. They even have the anti-climb panel on top, which I hated to look at. But it made it much harder to climb. So I said, well, do I give up the look for the climb? It's called an anti-climb panel, and it's right. It's very hard to get over the top. These guys can do anything. And what happened is they didn't want to put up those. So they went out and bought a totally different panel instead of just putting up, which is nothing by comparison, not nearly as good, not as good in any way. Rather than using the panel that was sitting 10 feet away, they put different panels up. Looks like hell, too. Now you have a wall that doesn't, you know, they say, where the hell did that come from? But they admit, you know, I always said for years, I said, everything gets obsolete fast. Like you have a computer and you think it's great, and then 2 weeks later it's obsolete. You have a new cell phone. I love it. I love it. A week and a half later, they come out with a better one. The only things that don't get obsolete are the wheel and the wall. A wall is never obsolete. But what Kamala did not talk about in her remarks last night were the countless Americans who've been brutally assaulted and killed by illegal aliens, and she let them in. Killed, many, many killed. Just so many people. Already. You know, we think this is the beginning. It's not. This has been going on ever since they took over. Because from the day they took over, they said, we want an open border. And nobody believed them. It wasn't believable. And here today is Patty Morin, whose heartbreaking story is a tragic warning of what will come to every city in America with 4 more years of Kamala Harris. I can't even believe she's being considered. Look, she was considered 8 weeks ago the worst vice president in history, a very dumb person. The fake news was calling her dumb, stupid, didn't have a chance. She was at the bottom of a list of 12 candidates. They voted. She came in last. She fought Joe Biden, Crooked Joe. I call him 2 names. I call him Crooked Joe, Sleepy Joe. I'm not sure. I've never figured out which is better. He said they're both good. I agree. I actually tried them together, but it doesn't work together. You know? I sort of interchange. But think of it. This person, what they've done to our country and what's done to Patty. She lost the most beautiful person, her daughter, you've ever seen. And I've gotten to know her, and none of this would have happened. Just like the war with Ukraine and Russia would have never happened if I was president. No chance, 0 chance. Putin would have never done it. Just like the attack on Israel would have never happened on October 7th. Just like that horror show if you look at Afghanistan, would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. We would right now be energy dominant instead of looking for energy. You know that our reserves, we have a reserve, and it's really meant for war. It's meant for very important things, strategic reserves, right? Just reported today they're at the lowest point they've been, maybe ever, but they know in 40 years, because Biden used that to suppress the numbers, because without that, the oil prices for your car, it wasn't supposed to be for your gasoline, in all due respect, and it's peanuts compared to the amount we're talking about. But now we have the lowest strategic oil reserves in the history of our country, we think, or many, many decades. And it's a shame, but Patty's precious daughter, Rachel, was a 37-year-old mom of 5 precious children, a beautiful woman, who lived in Maryland, 1,500 miles from the border. That's a long way from the border. Earlier this year, while Rachel was out on a run, she was brutally raped and murdered by this disgusting illegal alien who was led into the United States by Kamala and her lax law. Every one of my killer, we had the great, he would have never been able to get in. She stopped every single one of them. She was the border czar. Now she doesn't admit that. Whether you call her a czar or not, she was no czar because she really wasn't a czar. She didn't give a damn about the border. She never spoke to Border Patrol. You ever see the agents, all the top people, they never spoke to Biden or her, and yet it's like the most important thing. But Patty has suffered greatly. I've gotten to know Patty. She's a great woman, and she lost an amazing person in her family. Her family is suffering tremendously. But I'd like to ask Patty to come up and just say a few words about Rachel. Please, Patty. Thank you very much. Thank you, Patty. Let me take care of this.
Thank you. I'm not a politician, so I'm not here to give you a spiel. I do want to say vote for Trump, though, because I really believe that he's going to close our borders. Rachel was a very fun-loving, down-to-earth, compassionate woman. She worked really hard. She took good care of herself, good care of her children, and she loved people. She had a stuttering problem, so she was bullied when she was a child, so she really has compassion for other people. She was like the American mom. She took care of her kids. She worked hard. And because of this open border, her life was taken away and her children have been robbed of their mother. And it's just, we can't have it. Another 4 years of Kamala Harris, this story is going to be multiplied by the thousands.
Thank you, Don. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just take care of yourself, okay? I'll see you later. So unnecessary. And Patty, we're so sorry for the terrible suffering that you've had to endure. I've had lunch with Patty. We've spoken to the whole family, and I've spoken to many other families, same thing, and it's incredible. It's just incredible that a thing like that could happen. No reason for who has an open border where people they don't have the names of anybody. You know those 13,000 murderers that they don't have any idea where they are, who they are. They don't have the names. We just know they're all out of jails, all convicted of really bad murders. And now they're in our country. And that's a lot of people. In honor of Rachel's life and every other victim of migrant crime, we will win this election. We will secure our border. We will secure that border on day one. I always say, they say, what are the first things you're going to do, or the first two things? I always say, number one, we're closing our border, and number two, we drill, baby, drill. But I put drilling behind the border. A reporter asked me that question last night. What's the first thing? But I mean the first thing. I said, well, there's a couple of things. I said, I want to hear the first thing. I said, the first thing? Close the border. The second thing is drill, baby, drill. But I'll do them at the same time. We're going to bring down your cost at a level that you wouldn't believe, because that's what you have to do. We will give you, your electric costs here are the highest in the nation. I think you probably know that. We will bring down your energy costs within the first 12 months of my administration by 50%, and it'll be easy. We have more liquid gold under our feet. We're going to bring down your electric and your air conditioning and your gasoline. We're going to bring down your energy costs by 50% within 12 months of January 20th. So hold me to it. I hope I make it. All right, I hope I make it. You can hold me to it. And that, in turn, is going to bring down everything else. You're going to bring down the cost of food. You're going to bring, because your food costs have gone. The biggest complaint I actually get is groceries. When you talk to the people, they say, I say, what's the biggest problem? Groceries. And it's true. You look at the cost of bacon, the cost of cereal, these things went up at numbers that nobody's ever seen before, because we have an incompetent administration. And I believe she's more incompetent than Joe. I really do. I believe that she's more incompetent than Joe. A president's first duty and sole allegiance is to his own citizens, the citizens of his country, and Kamala's allegiance is to illegal aliens and foreign migrants. That's what it is, and maybe that's a Marxist thing. I don't know. And where is her father? I'd love to speak to him. I'd love to speak to him because nobody's heard from him, but I would like to speak to him. My heart is loyal only to the American people. I just feel for the American people. And unless I'm elected, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. Hey, look, you have two people. So you had, let's say, 350 million people. You have no idea how many people you have in this country. You know, normally you say we have no idea how many people. They've lost control. But let's say you have 350 million people. Then you had some people running as Republicans, and a lot of people running as Democrats. She was the first one out. By the way, I think you had 22 people running as Democrat when they started. And is that the right number, right? 22 people. And she was the first one to quit. She quit the first. She never got to Iowa. And then you had them fade, and you end up with Crooked Joe. And that's okay. I said, this is crazy. He's the one that got the nomination. He got 14 million votes. You know how many she got? Nothing. And everyone said she'll never get the nomination, but they were afraid because they wanted to be politically correct, so they gave it to her. But she was the weakest person on the whole list. But she's got the fake news. They're all fake, and they're behind her. Nobody knows why. I'm sure they don't know why. They do it out of habit. They do it because there's no reason why anybody would be behind her. She's not qualified. She'll do a horrible job. She'll be the worst president. She'll be worse than Joe, which is hard to believe. The happiest president right now is Jimmy Carter because his administration was brilliant compared to the one we have right now. And it's a very nice thing. He's an old guy, but he's the happiest guy in the world because he was brilliant by comparison to these people. They are the worst ever. On day one of my new administration, I'll stop all of the migrant flights into our country. You know, those planes are flying over right now. And they don't count them in the numbers. I don't know if you know. They and the phone app, which are thousands and thousands of, they're not counted in the numbers. That's why they do it, because they don't want to count it. I will end catch and release. I will restore remain in Mexico. I will bring back Title 42. That's the medical. I will send in federal law enforcement to rescue every town that has been taken over by migrant gangs and criminal alien thugs. And by that time, many of your towns in this great state will be in that position. It's happening fast. It's happening fast. And again, the politicians don't like talking because they think it's bad publicity. Worse publicity is to let it happen. The governor of Colorado, he's a Democrat, liberal guy. He's beside it. He doesn't know what to do. These Venezuelans have come in. They're taking over big parts of his towns. And he doesn't, and they're armed with weapons that the military doesn't even have. We will seal the border. We will stop the invasion immediately. We will begin the largest deportation operation in the history of our country because we have no choice. No matter what obstacles and dangers are thrown in our path, I will keep on fighting for you and for this country that we all love. That's why I'm doing this. I tell you what, I had a good life before I did this. Nobody was shooting at me. I had a hell of a life. Oh, those locations, those beautiful. I could have been sunbathing on the beach. You have never seen a body so beautiful. Much better than Sleepy Joe. No, but think of it. Here's a guy, he's president. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he goes to the beach. And then he's got a lot of cameras, you know. And somebody told him he looks good in a bathing suit. And he doesn't know, you know, what's he, 82? It's hard, generally speaking, to look great. But the mind can be good. You know, I know so many people in their 90s that are sharp. He's not one of them. But think, any guy that can lie down and in front of cameras fall asleep, stone cold out, and he's the President of the United States, and it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He's laying on the beach and he's sleeping. I say, how the hell do you fall asleep in front of the fake news media? But see, he can do it. If I did that, I would be. But because they protect him, he can do it. But he's out cold. And in certain ways, I respect it. I wish I had that ability to fall asleep like that. I would love that ability. I'd get a lot more sleep. That would be a good thing. But he goes to sleep, stone cold in front of the media. I never saw anything like it. He's sleeping. I say, what the hell? How do you do that? And you know, honestly, our people don't want to see him at the beach on a Tuesday sleeping. We really don't want to see that. Our American ancestors shed their blood and tears to build this magnificent land, and we are not going to let Kamala Harris and her party of absolute lunatics like Nancy Pelosi. How about Nancy? Did you see this? Crazy Nancy. She's crazy as a bedbug. Listen, crazy Nancy, okay? Visa announces that they're under major investigation. Major. By the Department of Justice. Major. Visa. She owns a lot of Visa stock. And they said Nancy Pelosi, she sold it the day before it was announced. One day. Her and her husband. They sold their stock the day before this was announced. Can you imagine if that were a Republican? I don't think so. Oh, no, it's terrible. It's terrible. No, it's terrible. That they're allowed to do that is terrible. But you're the people of America. You're the soul of America, and you will be trampled over no longer. We're not going to let this happen. We got to stop it. We got to stop it now. You know, I used to say they're trying to destroy our country, and I always hated the sound of that. Truth is, they have destroyed our country. What they've done, they've destroyed. But we're going to bring it back. We're going to bring it back fast. In this election, we need record turnout from our small towns. We need the heartland of America to stand up and to rescue this nation. We have so many great little towns and cities. You add them all up, and they're big. They're big. That's what I've always had, but they're trying to destroy them. And they're petrified, I told you. They're petrified of what's happening. Even if they haven't gotten the migrants yet, they're all coming. We need the entire Midwest to get out and vote, and early mail-in voting for everywhere. The Midwest has been so powerful for us. This area has been so powerful for us. You've been powerful for us, but Wisconsin... I mean, honestly, any place where there's honest voting has been powerful for us. When you look at California, which, by the way, she destroyed San Francisco. She was the DA. Then she became the Attorney General of California. She destroyed California, along with Gavin Newsom. You know that, Gavin? So I want to ask you to go and vote, and really go vote to save America. I believe this is the most important election in the history of our country. With your support, we will get the border shut. We will send the illegals back. We will repel the invasion immediately. It won't take long. We'll defend our territory, reclaim our sovereignty. We've lost our sovereignty. And restore the allegiance of our government to the people of this country. Together, we will make America powerful again. Make America wealthy again. Make America healthy again. Make America strong again. Make America proud again. Make America safe again. And we will make America great again. We are going to make it greater than ever before. So, Wisconsin, get out and vote. God bless you all. I'll be back. I'll see you soon. Thank you. Get out and vote. Save our country. Save our country.
Young man, there's no
once in your shoes. I said I was down and out with the blues. I felt no man cared if I were alive. I felt the whole world was so tired. That's when someone came up to me and said,